The anxiety over Donald Trump's possible re-election as squatter hovers like the prospect of a recurring bout of near-fatal cancer. Of course, this brewing unease will only build and intensify as the world confronts another U.S. presidential vote, which is now less than 35 months away. Now, Trump predictably still exerts absolute sovereignty over a Republican Party, which today embodies every diseased aspect of his sick personality and modus operandi, as one is cause of this stubborn worry. The other millions of myopic, I am being charitable here, Americans continue to support with an evangelical fervor a calculated charlatan who, since his persuasive defeat more than a year ago, has slipped further into madness among a thicket of crazed conspiracy theorists. And Trump ought to be in a hospital or preferably in the dock, but as I have explained, historical historical precedent and Attorney General Merrick Garland's unforgivable delinquency will likely save him from being charged and possibly convicted for his catalog of blatant violations of the Constitution that he swore to preserve and defend. Unlike his hapless Confederates, Trump has exploited a lifetime ability to slither away from being held to stiff, tangible account for anything. This means that he will, in all likelihood, be the Republican nominee for squatter in 2024, with a better than good chance of occupying the White House once again, unless the inevitables and vagaries of time intervene. Now, if he prevails on November 5th of 2024, the consequences for America's future and the planet's fate should be apparent to anyone that's not blinded by the ignorance and intolerance that defines Trump and his familiar and somewhat surprising legion of Democratic despising acolytes and apologists. The already irreparable damage and harm that this rank but capable demagogue has exacted on the enlightened America and the rest of sentient life on Earth stands as a blunt harbinger of the alarming scope and significance of the damage and harm that will come along again if he starts squatting in the White House again. As squatter, Trump enabled, encouraged, and applauded not just rhetoric but violent attacks against citizens and institutions that he has denounced as treasonous for being obstacles to or having thwarted his loony designs and actions culminating in the January 6th insurrection, and yes, insurrection, not riot or protest gone awry on Capitol Hill. And too many for too long were hesitant out of polite deference to the office of the squadroncy, or reckless aversion to the truth to acknowledge publicly that by his ugly words and deeds, the former and perhaps the 47th U.S. squatter remains an unabashed fascist. The querulous debate about Trump's fascist credentials should, by now, be a quaint and amusing anachronism. And fueled by an abiding sense of grievance and resentment, her Trump has confirmed in plain view again and again that he intends to complete the ruinous job that he and his equally venal co-conspirators began back in 2016. And by the way, if my use of her offends you, have you not? Sadly, been paying attention to Trump's repulsive strongman-inspired behavior before and after he rode down an escalator to announce his original candidacy for squatting. With rational, benevolent people, consider the aim of governing as an anathema to Trump. As such, the sole purpose of Trump as Godfather Part 2 will be to satisfy his seething narcissism. It'll be to satisfy the seething narcissist's appetite to avenge the phantom wrongs committed against him by his enemies, wherever the fuck that they may exist, with the mafioso's brutish disregard for decency and the rule of law. Now, the so-called guardrails that were designed to inhibit Trump's or any other authoritarian president or squatter's discerning thirst for revenge have also, by now, been reduced to a quaint and amusing anachronism. And the court-approved gerrymandering and districts and the Democrats' congenital tepidness and ineptness have combined. It appears to translate into Republicans retaking the House of Representatives after the 2022 midterm elections. The Republican Party has proven that it is populated and led by fucking lunatics, and the prostate service of fucking lunatics inside and outside the agreeable reality allergic studio of foe. This coupled with the Trump stacked Supreme Courts, including this coupled with a Trump stacked Supreme Court, including the presidential power abulists like Justice Clarence Williams and Samuel Alito, should they disabuse the gullible of the notion that responsible adults will act as a white knight like break on their dear leader if he returns to the Oval Office. Now, beyond the daily grinding dose of chaos and bedlam, Trump the sequel will inevitably result in a broad systemic assault on life support demand on life support remnants of what can generously be described as U.S. democracy. Like all upstanding fascists, Trump and his clan are basically Trump and his clan are fans of democracy when they win, but when Trump and his clan rally people lose, they are no longer fans of democracy, and so they have gone about fixing it to ensure that the fix is indeed in, particularly among swing states, but making it even harder for Democratic voters to even cast their vote. Now, like all upstanding fascists, Trump and his clan plan to steal the next presidential election illegally, with or without the help of a marauding army of maggot hat and flag waving homos who claim as well to pledge solemn allegiance with the hand on heart to the U.S. Constitution. Now, meanwhile, a gaggle of lapsed progressive journalists has penned the pedantic pay-to-read missives decrying the Democratic media for working in cahoots with the FBI to tar Trump as a made in Moscow fifth columnist. Oh dear, poor aggrieved fascists. If they believe this piece is evidence that I'm a Democratic patsy too, then I fucking plead guilty. Well, really I don't. But anyway, although my columns about George W. Bush and Donald Rumsfeld, among others, offer a rebuttal to this fucking lazy thinking. But still, in the cockeyed calculus of these inseparable past or best before date progressives, Trump's transgressions and indiscretions are pecan when compared with his predecessor's charge sheets. Give him time, ladies and gentlemen. Give him time. 4 more years of Trump as a squatter, surrounded by dolphins and sycophants, and unperturbed by any political or humanitarian constraints, is a prescription for not only an existential threat to America's constitutional republic, but to human existence altogether. And this is not fucking hyperbole. Trump and his congressional allies consider the accelerating threat posed by climate change to be a hoax. Now, the gains, however modest and grudging, made at the recent UN-sponsored climate change conference in Glasgow, Scotland, I will suspect and be made it would immediately be undone by Trump, with the approval of his fossil fuel addicted disciples who are convinced that snowballs are proof that the planet is not heating exponentially. Now, Trump's denials have injured many people in many ways. He denies facts. He denies losing. He denies the lethality of a mutating virus. He denies the efficacy of masks. He denies sexually assaulting women. He denies paying hush money to porn stars. He denies being a proud boy, adoring white supremacist piece of shit. And finally, Trump denies climate change, and this may turn out to be the most calamitous denial of all. So if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out, and thanks for listening.